I would be remiss, I would be delinquent if I did not bring a congratulations to the monster, Kevin Randleman. Now, Kevin Randleman is going into the UFC Hall of Fame. I have to tell you, my first reaction when they announced that they were going to induct him was, what took you so long? Kevin Randleman's not in the Hall of Fame? Okay. So, Kevin Randleman has had a very interesting life, and I got to know him in 1993. In 1993 and 1994 is when he was the NCAA champion. I could be a year off on that. When I say I got to know him, I did not meet him. I did not meet him until 2009. But the NCAA championships, it's very hard to watch wrestling. He was wrestling at Ohio State. Mark Coleman was his mentor, workout partner, and coach under Russ Hellickson. But Mark was Kevin's guy. These guys bonded, and they bonded early. So Kevin Randleman, because of NCAA wrestling, ESPN will air the championship match. It is the only wrestling that makes it on television. And ESPN is the only place that covers wrestling, even if it's once a year and it happens to be the national finals. But the good news for Kevin Randleman is he was in the national finals twice. So this is how I got to know him. And he wrestled in the finals for his first championship. A gentleman out of Nebraska named Corey Olson. And Corey Olson was about as good of a wrestler as you're ever going to come across. He was a pinning machine. Set records for pinning guys that still holds to this day. And Kevin goes out there and beats him. And I believe Kevin beat him by 4 points. For the sake of my story, because I'm attempting to prove a different point, let's just call it 4 points. He beats Corey Olson. Good hard match. The next year, both guys are back. Both guys were juniors. Both guys come back. They're now seniors. Kevin Randleman gets in some kind of a jam. And it precludes him from wrestling. It even precludes him from training. There might have even been like jail he had to go to as he's working through something. Well, he works through it. Turns out hands were clean. Okay, great. Jump in there. Sorry we put you through that. Jump back in there, champ. Well, there's no time to jump in there. There's no time. The Big Eights are next weekend. The national tournament is the following weekend. The champion doesn't get to train. Makes it back to the national finals. Meets up with the same guy, Corey Olson of Nebraska, in the finals. Corey worked his ass off, getting ready for Kevin Randleman for 1 year. Kevin Randleman did nothing to get ready for Corey because he couldn't. Beat Corey by 4 points, okay? Does not train. Corey trains nonstop. They rematch. Kevin Randleman beats him by 8 points. Whatever that was that Randleman beat Corey by, he doubled it the next year without training. Kevin Randleman used to go onto the mat. He wrestled at 177 pounds. And he would go onto the mat and he would do what's called a Michigan. Now, a Michigan is an exercise that a coach will put you through, largely if the coach is upset with you. It's kind of like a coach comes in, you're doing something wrong, you're late, you're talking, you're not paying attention. 25 push-ups, knock them out. That's meant as to refocus you, also give you a discipline. A Michigan is such a hard exercise. It's where you're standing up and down. You jump as high as you can in the air, and you pull your knees to your chest. Well, Kevin Randleman would do that when he got on the mat. He would get out to the mat, and the way a wrestling match starts is both guys put their foot on the line, they shake hands, referee blows the whistle, boom, we're underway. Kevin Randleman, before he would put his foot on the line and before he would shake hands, would hit a Michigan. He'd walk on the mat, and he'd jump in the air. He would jump so high that when he pulled his legs up, when he pulled his knees to his chest, his feet would be level with his opponent's head. That may sound simple to you. That may sound impressive to you. Guys, it intimidated the holy heck out of opponents. I mean, this was Kevin's thing. He would show them his athleticism, and he would show them his power and his explosiveness before the match ever started. So, in the world of amateur wrestling, that was a bit of a gimmick. As simple as that may sound, to walk onto a mat and jump up high in the air and pull your feet, nobody was doing anything. Kevin Randleman was really an innovator. I don't think he even meant to be. I think that was just kind of his reset button. You know, some guys might bless themselves, or some guys might give a coach a hug, or some guys might have to put their headgear on and slap themselves in the face. I mean, you see certain things for athletes. You've seen batters go up and they got to move the bat over here. They got to, click it on their shoe. There's certain things that they do. I think that this was just the thing that Kevin Randleman did. but as an accidental byproduct, he used to intimidate people. And people would watch in the stick, oh my God, did you see that? That guy just jumped up to the other guy's head. It was one of these really interesting things. So Kevin Randleman never really pursued international wrestling. As great as he was, generally whoever's the collegiate champion goes on and makes waves on the world and Olympic level. It wasn't what Kevin Randleman did. Took a little bit of time off, and then he gets right into MMA. And when he got into MMA, he got into a tournament. And don't forget, he's a 177-pounder, which means he probably cut some weight. Kevin probably got as high as 200 pounds. I could be wrong, and he got as much as 208 pounds. But I am right to tell you he never got to 210 pounds. And even at 208 pounds, he's probably not moving and doing all the things that great. But if you'll remember that time of MMA, there was no commissions. Which meant what? There was no weigh-ins. And it was also tournament-style format. So Kevin goes over to Brazil. 8-man tournament, just the way they were doing it. 10 grand, 20 grand to the winner, but that was a great payday back then. I mean, absolutely crazy. If you had to fight 3 guys in one night and fly to a different country, guys are begging to do that. Gets to the tournament, gets into the finals, runs into a fellow wrestler, Tom Erickson. Now, as good as Kevin Randleman was, Tom was better. But as big and strong, as powerful as Kevin is, I should mention for you, Tom Erickson did it in the heavyweight class. So these guys aren't even close. Tom's 280. Kevin's 200 plus a couple of pounds, right? Whatever he had for lunch that day. It's one of these things. He's up against it. And by the way, he wasn't some kind of mixed martial artist. Nobody was. You would just train, you would be an athlete, you'd get in shape, and then you go get in a cage fight. That's what it was back then. So now he's got to go in there with Tom Erickson, who's got 80 pounds on him and who Kevin fully knows is better than me. Even if we weighed the same thing, this guy's better. I might have won 2 national championships. This guy is the senior U.S. Open champion and world team representative. Went out and did it anyway. Went exactly the way you would think. Tom cleaned him up. Tom knocked him out. But Kevin, one of these guys, get right back on the horse. There was no hard feelings about that. It's competition. Shake hands, go at it, shake hands when you're done, go in the back, talk to each other, no hard feelings. But this is a really lighthearted attitude. And I would also argue for you that story is relevant because I think it helps for you to understand Kevin Randleman's mindset. He was not a bully. He did not go take on fights that he knew he was going to win. He walked into the cage many times knowing this is not going to be a fun night. Let's compete, say win. And it led him to a world championship. He took his skills that were very limited at that time. Now, everybody's were at that time. There's not an insult here. He took his skills that were limited at that time and found a way to adapt and make them work. As the sport began to grow and guys started to learn how to punch and kick and do submissions, he grew. He went under Mark Lehman and got a brown belt in jiu-jitsu. Now, he told me that himself in 2009, the first time that I got to visit with him. At the World MMA Awards, I remember right where we were. And couldn't have been a nicer guy, couldn't have been a more pleasant guy, but told me, hey man, I'm really focusing on this. I've had some hard times with submissions. I'm with Mark Lehman. I've now got a brown belt. He may have gone on to get his black belt. I'm not trying to take, if he's a black belt, I don't want to diminish him. I'm just telling you where I left off with him. He was focused. He was a student of the sport. And he wasn't doing a whole lot of competing at that point, but he was still open-minded and learning. He wanted to learn. He wanted to know more. He wanted to progress so that he could be a coach and give back to his own kids, to the next generation, which is something he was also doing that he deserves credit for. He was in the practice rooms. He was helping to coach youth. Not the fancy guys or the guys with the money or the guys on TV, the youth. The same thing that some coach had done for him at some point, quietly and unnamed, he was doing for others. Kevin Randleman, welcome to the Hall of Fame.